extend this down to you as soon as I listen. So this is the first thing, and then the question for the prayer. So my very small question is that when we go to see some of the tombs of various kings and other people who are Muslims, what form of prayer can be offered, or should we not offer at all?
No, you can offer prayers for them,
Yes.
for anyone, but for an idolater. The Muslims are so close to you, I mean, although you can't accept their imamat and you say, don't say their prayer that is said after death, because of the fundamental differences in their, not all the fundamental differences, but one fundamental difference, that they have rejected the messenger from God. This deprives them of the right of leading the prayers of Ahmadis, because they have rejected the Imam, leader appointed by Allah. So in the same process, they have foregone the right of leading themselves. One who does not believe in the Imam appointed by Allah, how can he become himself an Imam, authorized Imam to others? He foregoes the right immediately. So, I mean, that is the reason. Otherwise, in humanitarian relationship, we are extremely kind and loving and should even be sacrificing our own interest for their sake in every regard.
I had a bit of confrontation sort of thing which became the failure of the Tabligh eventually at the Mazar of Hazrat Nizam bin Awliya
Yes.
in Delhi when I went this time, because I just wanted to visit there, and there were people who were sitting around like peers and so on,
Yes.
and said you should say Surah Fatih in this particular fashion, otherwise this will happen and that will happen and so on. So after a little bit of conversation, then I started explaining to them, and eventually the topic came over to the Ahmadiyya, and eventually explained who I was and so on. So
No, but to pray for a dead person, be he a saint or an ordinary man, is not only permitted, it is encouraged. In fact, it's your duty to do that. Despite the differences in opinion, you can you can pray for anyone in the world, all human beings in the world, dead or alive, if they are not mushrikeen. If they are idolaters, only then you are forbidden to pray for them after they have died. But during their lifetime, you can pray for them that they may begin to see light. I mean, that sort of prayer is permitted. But during the lifetime. After death, Allah says, me and him, you have nothing to do with it, so keep aloof.
it's just the way, they say that, say the Surah Fatih and take the flower.
That is tradition, and that is all superstition, in fact. And also that is a sort of idolatry as well, because so much of almost worshipping is being practiced on these mazars, that in fact it's very difficult to draw a hard and fast line between what they do to the mazar and what they do to Allah during the worship. So that is what is forbidden, and at no cost should you have any compromise on that. But to pray for the dead person, not to ask from him of any benefits, that is of course should be encouraged. Yes. Yes, please.
And the second question is about the succession in Islam law. The Quran has given us a lot of laws about, distribution of the zakat and the mal and this. But we haven't had a single word on succession.
Succession of power, like the way we were ourselves.
The path we take further.
Yes.
And that is not spoken of any form of domination at all.
Actually, the first caliph was...
No, I'm not talking of history. I am talking of the book to which you are referring now. You are basing your question on the Holy Quran, so remain stuck to this.
Yeah, just I want to, explain.
The Holy Quran does not speak of any form of government at all.
Right.
Why? When it does not broach upon the subject of government, why should it start instead of the first starting with the beginning, should start in the middle? The whole subject is lacking apparently.
No, what I was coming to, that a lot of mullahs nowadays in Islamic world are saying, they want Islamic country and Islamic law and this and that, and that's what I was saying. And there is really no form of government is being.
That's right. Yes, no form of government has been mentioned in the Holy Quran, nor was it right or rational for the Holy Quran to declare a certain form of government to be the form of government. What is being discussed and what is discussed in the Holy Quran is not how a government should come into power. But what is discussed is this, how any government should discharge its duties and its obligations. That has been discussed at length pertaining to every situation. So the first part is not necessary, and it was not possible or reasonable for the Holy Quran to impose one single form of government on the people, which belong to different ages, belong to different temperaments, different tribal traditions and inborn traits and tendencies. The fact is that the so-called Western democracy cannot be planted in every country with equal success. In fact, even if you try it hard, in some countries it will kick back and produce exactly the opposite result. The same so-called democracy is now the basis of the strongest dictatorships. It is the democratic process of communalization which has created the Soviet dictatorship. It is the same process which is being now exploited everywhere else. And recently a referendum was held, the sort of the democracy which is denied at the same time. The democracy has no role to play. This is what is claimed by the Pakistan government. Yet the same government went to the people and made having a show of referendum, and everybody knows that it was just a hoax, and in the name of that condemned democracy, the present regime derived the so-called power of legitimacy. So democracy, as understood by the ordinary people, is a very attractive word. But in reality, it does not exist in most countries. More often than not, it is exploited and it is mishandled, and in truth, true democracy is found in very few countries in the world. And that too not to its final excellence, the ultimate shape which it should ultimately reach. For instance, here in England, this is one of the best countries which can be quoted as a model of democracy. Yet democracy in all its three factors is not in practice here, and it cannot be practiced anywhere. But impose this democracy on the pygmies of Congo, or the Aborigines of Australia, or the tribal people of Malaysia, or other countries in the world, that would appear so foreign to their system of government which they have inherited from generations and their society, that they will think that it is cruelty to impose such a system upon them. So the tribal system in Balochistan is so different And they are very happy with this.